We also pursued media, A, to promote the opportunity for community to participate in the consultation and provide feedback, but also to keep the topic elevated and relevant for all stakeholders. We also provided a written submission. And here's some examples of our advocacy through the media. And here's some examples which show it's always good to see some change happen. That's why we get out of bed every morning. And there's been some great improvements to public transport in the hills, but there's still a lot of work to do. It requires state government to really commit significantly increased budget for public transport. So our work is still underway in that area. Local investment and employment is another example of our focus area. There's three parts to this that we focus on: availability of employment land, defence, the opportunity around that, and the manufacturing sector. For employment land, it's a critical part of the economy. Accommodates diverse industries these days, not just the traditional manufacturing, but also services and retail sectors. In the GARP, the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan, it identified more than 80 hectares shortfall of employment land in the hills between now and 2051, which is scarily not far away. But it's not just about the hills. It requires a regional perspective, which is something that RDA provides. The hills has quite limited and also smaller scale employment lands. And when we talk to businesses all the time, and when they outgrow these sites, they've got limited options where to go. They might consider going to Mount Barker, increasingly Murray Bridge, increasingly north of Adelaide. And thinking broader afield, south of Adelaide, the city of Onkaparinga is running out of employment land also. So there's a regional and state scale to this. There's a real opportunity for the hills to participate in harnessing the demand and growing local jobs. For the whole hills, Mount Barker Council and Adelaide Hills Council, there's about 35% employment self-sufficiency. So 65% of working residents leaving the council to work elsewhere. So there's enormous upside for every percent of jobs that are here and stay local. Means business owners investing locally, construction, supply chains and employment, and local workers that spend their money locally. We saw that as a great example during COVID and post-COVID, when more people were working from home, more money was being spent in the local economy rather than in the city or elsewhere. So on this front, we've advocated through the consultation on the GARP and continue to work with council on opportunities that we might be able to support moving forward. I'm going to skip defence for now, but needless to say, just in the for time reasons, but needless to say, there's an enormous opportunity. And when the Department of Defence spoke to all of the RDA CEOs and said we need 14,000 people in the next 10 years, we want your people, I stood up and suggested that that's not our role, to send people to Adelaide or to Osborne. What are the opportunities for the region? Manufacturing is something we identified in our last strategy 3 years ago as a bit of a unicorn. Statewide and nationally, manufacturing's been in decline for decades, but not so in this region, and in particular in this council.
Get a bit over 5 minutes.
Thank you. So, in our region, manufacturing is a key propulsive sector, which means it's one of the key drivers of the economy. It's also one of a handful of sectors with a location quotient above 1, which means for the hills, manufacturing is a specialisation when compared to the state as a whole. So this graph shows that there's 6 or 7 or 8 sectors of the economy that are a specialisation for the hills. There's another 20 or so that aren't on the graph because they're under 1. They're things that we're not a specialisation in. You can see manufacturing is right up there, but within manufacturing, in Adelaide Hills Council, there's particular parts of manufacturing that rate very highly. Wine and spirits, wouldn't be a surprise to any of you, with a location quotient of 4, dairy products 5.9. Looking at any economic, any of the economic measures, manufacturing is important. So you can see on these graphs whether it's output, local expenditure, export income or jobs, manufacturing is either top or in the top 4 or 5. So as an RDA, we're supporting this sector by running a regional manufacturing network. We've got an event on in Hahndorf this week. The last one was held at Fabric, which is a wonderful venue. We're in the 5th year this year of having run our own grant for manufacturers. We work with council on related programs like the Small Business Mentoring Program, and we advocate with government for support for small manufacturers, including extension of our own grant. That brings me to conclusion, and if there is time, through you, Mayor, happy to take some questions.
Councillor Hammond, you've got a question?
You mentioned a shortfall of 80 hectares, I think it was, for employment land. How do you address that? What do you do to get it back to even Stevens?
Yeah, so we're having discussions with councils right now throughout the Fleurieu and the Hills on having some work done in this space, and I don't pretend to have all the answers, but obviously where there's a demand, there's possibility for working through means to provide for that demand. So whether that's additional employment lands, and there is scope for that to happen through the planning system, but ultimately it's a real planning question.
Second question, Woodside Army Camp, you meant you glossed over defence. So have you had any involvement to date on that?
Not directly, but I've been having some conversations in recent weeks on the topic. As I've indicated with Greg, very keen to get all the parties around the table so that everyone's on the same page. And really until Defence indicate publicly, I would say, what their intent is, everyone's in the dark, I suppose. So it'd be good to be on the front foot, have everyone around the table talking about the options and possibilities. Oh
no, put some housing in there and they'll get their 8,000 people perhaps to work in the defence force.
All right, Councillor Hammond. Councillor Mudge and then Councillor Stock. If you could just turn your microphone off, Councillor Hammond, thanks.
This is a perfect follow-up on that one, actually. As a person who's spent the entirety of my working career in the defence sector, I'd be interested in what sort of, I guess you're talking about industries either supporting the Defence Force or even Defence Force itself. Is there any thoughts on what that might actually be, what might be suited to our region?
Sure, it's a good question. What I've argued with representatives in Defence SA is that people move to the hills for a reason, and that's the livability. And I have this argument with state government generally, particularly around public transport, but also road infrastructure. There's populations outside of Adelaide that can participate in the growth of the economy. So for Defence, that might mean that there's teams of engineers or whatever it might be, you'd understand better than myself, Councillor, that can be based remote of Osborne, don't have to be in Osborne or the city. So they're the sort of opportunities that we're exploring.
Councillor Sistock.
Thank you for your presentation. Does the RDA provide grants to local business in the Adelaide Hills, Fleurieu and Kangaroo Island?
Yeah, good question. We do. It's not a mainstay, and in fact, of all the RDAs in this state, I'm not aware of any grants that any of the other RDAs provide to businesses. Most of our work is delivering state and federal programs or promoting services and programs available to businesses from the state and federal governments and others. But given our interest in manufacturing, we've just run our 5th year of our own Hills and Coast Business Grant, which is focused on the manufacturing sector. And that the reason we did that is that the state and federal funds for manufacturing typically only cater for very large businesses and in very select areas, the sexy areas of the day, which, you know, in the last few years have been space, biomedical and things like that, which aren't so common in our region.
Okay. And look, I don't expect an answer now, but I would be interested if you could forward the answer to the administration. I'd just like to know the number of grant recipients in the Adelaide Hills Council region and the value of those grants, say, in the last financial year. I'd just be interested in that, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
Any final question? No. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming along tonight. Okay. We will move on to item 10. There was one question on notice regarding the Woodside Army Camp from Councillor Gladigo. Does anyone have any follow-up questions in relation to that, noting that you probably just asked them in a way? No, we'll move on to motions on notice. We have one motion on notice from Councillor Parkin, the structural report on Old Stirling School. Would you like to move and speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. Through you, I'd also like to amend it slightly. I'd like to amend point 3 to that the report be presented. In doing so, the reason I'd like to do this is to kind of foreshadow a motion that I know is coming up and which I'm in full support of. That the report be presented to Council before the end of the current Council term and in line with any future asset strategy. But I'd still like to present and speak to the motion if I can.
Yeah, of course.
Right, so there is a bit of backstory to this, and the reason I put it forward is actually because of the success of the Champions Initiative, I guess. So don't smile, Riley, please, Jade. Recently, the Champions Initiative have been touring a number of buildings in the local area, the Stirling area, which I represent. It's my electorate. Looking at their I guess future usability. We visited one building, which shall remain nameless, which is currently used by community, but obviously has a very limited shelf life for a number of reasons. So we started to explore what other council buildings there might be in Stirling and surrounds that could potentially be put to use that isn't really being used at the moment, and where the people who are currently using the other buildings could potentially be moved to. So that's where this motion comes from. And I had considered also adding in exploring the cottage on Wright Road that we were going to put Sophie into, but I didn't do that for a number of reasons, but partly because of Jade's response, because I feel that could also be rolled into any future plan. But I still do think that that Stirling Community School is worth exploring, and we should actually look at the viability of that in the long term, given that we have an obligation to spend money on it anyway. I think we should explore what any future use might be. I'd like to, I guess, highlight for new councillors that this isn't calling for action, it's calling for a report. And any report that this calls for could be put into any sort of future asset plan that we, a strategy that we might decide to undertake. Even if we do decide to do something like that, it doesn't mean that we as individual councillors can't ask for reports on anything that we feel meets community need or interest. And certainly the Old Stirling Community School has been very much of local interest in the time I've been on council. So we've had the Old School Community Garden wanting to use it, which we have now managed them to do. They've also at times volunteered to help maintain and upgrade it. So it's certainly an asset that's considered very important by my local community. So that's the background. It's very historically significant. It's one of the few remaining old schools that still exists. It used to be a training school for agriculture. It was one of the few training schools for agriculture in the state. Grounds are currently used by the Stirling Community Garden and Nature Play Group, provide a valued space for residents to engage in community gardening, sustainability and social connection. It used to be used by the Girl Guides. I had a tour of it recently. There's bits of it structurally that look great, but there's also bits that are pretty scary. And I think that Jade's officer's report really does answer a lot of the questions that I had without even putting in a full report. So we've got an idea of what it would cost to maintain it or to use it again, some of the requirements around WH&S. I would still like to put the motion. I would still like to see a report on it before the end of the council term and in line with any asset plan that we may put forward. There hasn't, despite the fact that Stirling always gets called, you know, the hoity-toity end, there actually hasn't been much spent or done in terms of community buildings or upgrades in recent years. We will need to find new spaces for some of our community groups, and this is something that we should consider as part of that. So I commend the motion, and I ask you to support the consideration of this motion in line with a broader plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parkin. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Grant, would you like to speak to the item?
I was just wondering if I could ask a question.
Oh, sure.
First, would this motion, where it passed, have budgetary implications?
Ms Ballantyne, you might be.
Through you, Acting Mayor, I am cataloguing in my brain. We have commenced our usual condition assessment auditing, which is underway right now. I think the only expense would come from a selected proposed options of use and then using expertise to figure out what building works would need to occur to meet that. So I wouldn't be able to give you a rubbery figure there, but we can give you indicative costs on a select number of uses based on renewal works that are currently underway in other similar aged buildings. So short answer. There may be budget implications.
And can this work be done with existing resources, considering those budgetary implications, I guess? But I mean, I guess what I'm asking is this the sort of thing you're doing in the ordinary course of business, and this just refocus you on this particular site, or is it more than that?
It's a good question. My only hesitation is around stumbling upon something we can't foresee at the minute with the Uradler Institute being a good example of something that we couldn't foresee occurring, and therefore my reliance on the existing documentation and the investigations into the building that we used to form an answer to this MON, there doesn't seem to be anything that might catch us unawares. I guess if we elected to do any works within this council term on the building, should we deem it a strategic action item, then yes, there would be budget implications, but you would put them in next financial year. As for assessing its what kind of work we could do for that following financial year, I don't think there will. I think we can do that internally. To be frank, my concern is around the lack of a wastewater network. It's not connected to the main sewer, and so I can already foresee the septic system on site needing some attention for greater use than what is there now, which is one group meeting very irregularly.
Thank you, Ms Ballantyne. Did you wish to second the
Yeah, thank you. I'll second the motion and just briefly speak. I think the chamber can be comfortable in the fact that this is a finding mission budgetary implications, if any, we'll address in the budget discussions for the next financial year, at earliest probably when we assess the use of this building with all the others, the many others in our council area. But this will mean at least we're very well informed in this particular case.
Thanks. I'll go to Councillor Huxter, Mudge, and then Boyd.
May I please just ask for the screen to go down so we can see the change that was... Thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay. Councillor Mudge.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I have a question of the mover. Is the motivation behind this your concern not so much, about the condition of the building, but also that it might be underutilised?
Thanks for your question, Councillor Mudge. Yes, it's there. We've had sort of several, I guess, theoretical, future-focused, broader discussions about, regional development grants and, how we roll in our underutilised assets, which we are required to maintain anyway, that have great, potential community interest, certainly historical interest, and how we could potentially use them in the future. Understanding that we don't have current budget, but we need to start thinking about these things, and we do need to start thinking about them strategically. I agree. So this needs to be part of any strategic consideration, partly because of underutilisation and because of community interest and where it's located. It's very central.
Councillor Boyd.
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor. I'm going to support this, particularly as it's a report only at this stage. I would be devastated if this would lead to us divesting this asset. I think that it's a key strategic asset, particularly in this area, especially with other buildings not being so appropriate for community groups, to be able to, because it is currently underutilised. I think if we were to maintain this asset, I'd really like to support that. And like I said, I would not want us to let that key asset go.
Thank you, Councillor Boyd. Councillor Gladego.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Just a quick question on it. Did I read that it was 1860 is the building? That's what it was. So has it got a heritage agreements and stuff on it, which makes it a bit more difficult to maintain?
Local heritage.
Thanks.
Would anyone else like to contribute to the debate? Councillor Parkin, your right of reply.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to outline that this is not a call to action. This is a report. This is a piece of information which should help us start to think strategically, not just about what we do with our assets in this area, which we know we're going to have to deal with soon, but we can then start to think do this sort of thing more broadly in line with any current asset plans that we have. I know we do have some, and any future asset strategies. So I commend the motion. Thank you.
Okay, with the debate closed, all those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously. Now, I understand, Councillor Gladego, you'd like to move a second motion in relation to the same topic, which I have reviewed and will allow. If you'd like to... Has anyone not seen Councillor Gladego's wording? Okay, if you just bring it up on the screen. I'll just give Councillor Boyd a minute to read it, and then I'll let you speak to the item. Okay, move and speak to your item.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Parkin, for the segue into this one. Since being on council, which is nearly 2 months, it became more and more significant to me of the amount of asset that the council actually controls, and we had presentations on the native vegetation plan, which talked about a whole lot of reserves, etc., that we manage under Crown care, or Crown ownership, I should say. And then recently there was one on the sport and rec or whatever as well, which probably cemented it in my mind is how do we look after all this stuff, and we need to be more strategic about how we go about it. So which led me to the motion of saying, where is the plan to be able to do that? And where is the guidance to our administration, etc., to actually act on it? So, hence the motion that I have put forward here. And given, when we looked at, we have 42,000 residents, 57 towns or localities. We've got how many tennis courts, ovals, halls, etc. And I just visited one of the halls on the way here tonight to talk with the local community groups, going, here's another one to add to the list. It just means that we need to get more strategic on how we're going to look after all these assets. And it's not saying we're going to sell everything or whatever, but there's got to be things where we need to start looking at how are we going to look after this? Why should we build a playground here and here when we could build one really good playground which people will actually use instead of two? That'll be half jobs. So it's things like that. So this whole motion is around giving the administration the tick to go get on, and it will take a 3-year plan. I think there's an extra point I've added in there which wasn't in what I circulated to the councillors, which is point 5, that obviously, given Councillor Parkin's motion is that we can't stop still doing things, but there's obviously, I'm hoping out of this there'll be some high priorities that will come along to go, yes, we need to focus on some of these along the way, because this project could take 3 odd years to be able to achieve. So I commend the motion.
Councillor Herman, you'd like to second the motion?
I'll second the motion and speak to it. Longer serving members, I won't say older, longer serving members may recall in the last couple of years, there was a survey done of particularly Crown land that the council doesn't own but has care, control and management of. From recollection, there's about 16 parcels of that land. It's community land, it's Crown land, so there's a number of approvals to get before council can do anything with it. Now, council approved this principle of that, although there were 2 or 3 parcels of land that were reserved. They may have had some First Nations significance, but that never proceeded to its finality. So I would hope that that work that had been done for that would be included in this review, and I'll see the CEO nodding his head with that. So I will support the motion. I think it's a good first step to, I'll say rationalise our assets. Do we need them all? I don't know. Maybe we need more. I hope not. So commend the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Herman. Councillor Mudge and Councillor Parkin.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I've got a question on this one. When I first read the motion this afternoon, I thought, how's this different to what we've been doing or what we do as a normal course of our business? We have asset management plans, we have community land management plans. In my time on council, we've developed and revised them and improved them and things like that. How would the administration see this as being different to that and contributing to that?
Through you, Acting Mayor. Thank you for the question. How I see this is that this council is committed to doing things differently and better. And the governing body, which you are, is making an announcement quite strongly that they want to see administration really focus on this area and improve it, because it has been kicked around. There's well-matured plans in some areas and not so in others. And this is making sure that we're serious about managing our assets now and into the future.
Councillor Mudge.
Can I speak to it? Yeah, look, I support this motion wholeheartedly on the basis that it is a commitment. It's certainly been one of my frustrations in my time on the audit committee that we were talking about asset management plans in particular, and there was a program to progress them, but that was very, very slow, and it just didn't seem like we had the appropriate level of priority on those asset management plans. And as a consequence, we've experienced some surprises with our, what they call it, devaluations. And I think that's disappointing. So I wholeheartedly support a motion which sort of increases the priority of that and actually shows that we're really serious about it. And I like the idea of developing a plan. So there's actually, I'd like to see milestones and, by this time we're going to have this plan, we're going to have that plan, and we're going to have it completed. And we see it as a priority because we're a asset-rich council and not necessarily the most affluent in ratepayer income, and so therefore that means that we may need to make some hard decisions about some of the assets we have in the future, and we need to do that in a measured and sort of evidence-based way. So I support the motion.
Councillor Parkin.
Yes, similarly to Councillor Mudge, I've just got a couple of questions, but I generally support the motion. And that is, like, my memory of being on council was that we had asset management plans, and I called Dr. Gill this afternoon and said, don't we have one? And she said that in 2017, I think, sorry if I'm wrong, Zoe, we had a draft asset management plan that went out for consultation, but we never voted on it. Oh, it was a suite of plans, right. So it was a suite of asset management plans. So I guess my question would be, is in the enacting of this motion, would the existing draft plans, which people have, there's been a lot of council time and therefore money spent on the development of those plans, and we have them, will they be brought to workshops so that we can revisit them, work out what is still workable, and then what can be rolled into anything that we have in the future? Because it seems a waste to start completely from scratch if we have a lot of it there.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Acting Mayor. Of course, this is not about reinventing the wheel. If we've got some draft plans, we will pick up off of those and review those. But as we identified over the last couple of years, there have been gaps. But what this is about is really about setting the strategic direction of council and making sure that when we look at an asset, is it of significance? Is it of strategic significance? And looking at it, the benefit to our community, and of course, if it is worth the investment. What I'm used to is all asset management plans coming back to council for endorsement. Every single suite of asset management plans, and we might do that as a whole, or we might roll them out. This is the direction our road assets are heading. This is the direction our building assets are heading, and so forth. But this needs to be deliberated on and approved by council, the strategy. And this is what this motion enables us to do.
Is anyone, Councillor Huxter? And then Councillor Grant.
Thank you. I support this motion. I think this is fantastic and something that we will really benefit from. I think we will all learn a lot from the information that comes to us through this report. I think that I don't want to preempt what the report is going to say, obviously, but there is an opportunity for us to make some decisions that might be hard decisions to make, but setting things up in the future for success for my kids, other people's kids, to benefit from. I think this is a great step in the right direction. So thank you, Councillor Gladigo.
Councillor Grant.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. A couple of questions, and I'll do them in the one go. One is, can the administration do this with existing resources by June? But the second question, which I guess would inform that, is how does the administration interpret this body of work? I see it as not developing any of these plans, but a broad brush view on our approach, I guess, of prioritising, and especially the policy framework, is to develop a framework by which we assess assets for their usability, worth, maintenance cost, so cost benefit analysis. And so in one way, this mightn't be a huge body of work, but it would lay out the plan for a very big body of work, maybe unlimited. Does that need enough a question?
Yeah, no, I think, well, that's the way I interpreted it, that it's a plan for the plans, but it's what's the administration's, yep, they're all nodding. So do you, I guess, linking back to Councillor Grant's first part of the question, do you anticipate that the plan for the plans requires resourcing, or will it be done within existing resources?
I hope to have more resources that will assist in preparing the plan for the plan. I guess what I'd like to clarify, perhaps beginning with Councillor Mudge's point, I distinguish this between what has gone before with our intent, which will commence with a workshop with you all. The contemporary difference of this body of work will be to connect the asset management plans in new categories of assets, and then connect those asset management plans for the individual categories to a strategic asset management plan that overarches all of our council region. So what lessons we learn from the individual categories we'll insert into a strategic document of asset management that will feed into our strat plan and our annual business plan and budgets. But more importantly than that, the asset management planning framework will connect directly to the community land management plans. If you look at our existing community land management plan, it doesn't talk so nicely to our asset management plans. And then beyond that, a policy framework that looks at how leases, licences and permits are applied to our land and our built form and the fees and charges that are attached to that. So I would like to emphasise that this new way in which we're going to do things will connect those three standard local government legislative requirements in ways we haven't done before, so they all connect and talk to each other. And the crucial part of that is it helps us to answer those complex decisions which we've grappled with in recent months around expressions of interest of fauna places and commercial interest in the use of community buildings, etc., etc. We haven't had that framework which we've all identified. It doesn't exist currently. So this will be a new way of connecting all those dots to the legislative tools that we have available to us. So that's a big distinguishing feature. But yes, we need more resources. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak to the item?
Yes, just briefly, and thank you, Ms. Ballantyne, for that comprehensive answer, which I'm personally looking forward to workshopping that whole field of asset management and being much more strategic. I think it's something been sorely lacking. I hope this motion serves to assist in that project and that it meshes with it rather than has a different objective. But I think they're sufficiently aligned, and I'm sure we'll nut it out. So yeah, I thank Councillor Gladigo for the motion, and we'll support it.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Yes, Councillor Trescothick. Almost reluctantly.
I don't want to sound like I'm repeating everyone else, but I just think from a governance perspective, I think Councillor Gladigo's motion is exactly what we need. And, you know, we've got limited funds, so we want to make sure we're spending our ratepayers' money as best we can. So I think a motion that helps Ms. Ballantyne get on with her job and provide some good long-term strategy is exactly what we need. So, yeah, I support the motion.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Your right of reply.
What Ms. Ballantyne said.
With the debate closed, all those in favour, please indicate. That is carried unanimously. So we'll move on to the administration reports now. So item 12.1, the revocation of selected resolutions regarding the Mayor. Does the administration have any new information they'd like to provide the chamber? Someone like to move something in relation to this? Councillor Grant, do you wish to speak to the item?
Yeah, just briefly. To for the information of anyone who mightn't have been acquainted with these matters, this is tying up a whole intricate network of resolutions we made in the past, which removed powers from the Mayor at the time. This is bringing things back to normal. I thank the administration for the amount of work that's gone into this and for the attention to detail to get us back on a steady sailing again. So I commend this motion.
Councillor Osterstock, you'd like to second the motion?
Yes, I would. I'd like to second the motion. I also like to thank the administration. It was a trying time that the administration and the council had to endure, and I echo Councillor Grant's comments. We're now at a position where it is much more pleasant here at the council, and that's a good thing. And this motion will return the status quo as it should be. I commend the motion.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor
Not to
Herman.
speak, just a question.
Yes.
In the recommendation, the commencement date for most of these is the 26th of November.
Yeah, I did raise that.
And on the one I just looked up,
They're all the
complaint
9th,
handling
9th
and
of
not-
December.
Can we clarify which one is correct? Well, the resolution say the 26th.
So the resolution, and I
Yeah,
think
well-
the change will just occur under the
Yeah.
last point in the motion about minor changes.
Yep.
Okay, if no one else would like to speak to the motion, I assume no need for a right of reply. I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. That is carried unanimously. Councillor Herman, if you can just turn off your microphone, thanks. So item 12.2, East Waste Register of Interest fee. Dr Gill, do you have any new information you'd like to provide the chamber? No. Someone like to move something in relation to this? Councillor Huckster, would you like to speak to the item?
I will, just in case anyone wants to know what the background of it was from the board perspective. With the new general manager coming on board, there was an opportunity to review the way we did a few things at East Waste, and one of the queries that came up was, as board members, we all have to submit ordinary returns as we do as councillors. I think it's the same form, but this is more that East Waste was going to keep the forms in a safe file, and if any of the member councils of East Waste wanted to get a copy of each member's details, then they would just have to pay an administrative fee to get that information. So what East Waste is doing is just asking for our approval that, that's an okay administrative process. So I commend the motion.
Councillor Grant, you're happy to second?
Yeah, no need to speak.
Anyone else?
Question.
Yep, Councillor Herman.
Question. Do you make, well, through me, concession for pensioners and things like that? Can they, as councils I understand,
Yeah, we can waive
the
for
fee?
particular
Is that
fees.
provision in the East Waste one as well?
Councillor Huckster looks like she
No,
might-
I think it's only for CEOs to have that information. It's not. That
So
would
it's not
be
for the
through
public,
FOI.
it's a-
Not for public.
I thought it was for the public.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I listened.
Sorry, this. Oh, so my question stands.
Yes, so can the administration answer that? No, we'll just have to take it on notice.
Oh,
Yes, Councillor Gladigo.
Yeah, I mean, it does say in here, and ensure that the register is available for public inspection during office hours. So I take it it's public.
But I think you have to pay a fee to view it, is that? To
print.
To print. $25 to print, yeah, right. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak to the item? No need for a right of reply then. I'll put the vote. All those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 12.3, Budget Review 1. Mr Lewis, do you have any new information you'd like to provide the chamber? Councillor Herman, you've got your hand up.
Question on procedure with you.
Mhm.
Mayor. This went through the Audit and Risk Committee the other Monday night and it approved the recommendations.
Are you moving it? Just
No, just
okay.
an explanation.
Mhm.
And then I'll ask you a question on procedure. Went through the Audit and Risk Committee and they put their recommendation forward. And examine the budget review in terms of its terms of reference. Make that very clear. I now, as a council member, would like to remove one of the items. So,
I mean, you can move.
yeah, I can
And-
move subject to something. It will affect perhaps the figures, though. That's all. Because well, I'll move it with. I'll put the motion up, and then you can rule how it's moved.
Yes,
Right,
thanks.
so I'll move the recommendation with a new G or wherever the administration wants to put it, deleting the line open space operations consultants 20,000. And that's on page 166, if you'd like to have a look at that on your agendas.
So halfway down, yeah, I can see what you're talking about.
Right,
Consult
so-
cost undertake early.
so-
Yep.
So the reason for that is, in my view, this is a new project. We're engaging some consultants for 20 grand to start drawing up a plan for how that reserve might look next year. And that's a normal process, understand that. But who's to say there aren't other projects in the wind? In my view, that should stand, the consultancy money should go into the budget process, and we may choose to engage consultants, we may not choose to do that. And in terms of money, some may say it's only 20 grand, but you add a 20 here and a 20 there, and the project may rank highly when it's compared with others, it may not. So that's the reason I'm taking it out. It takes the commitment out of the current budget and puts it into the budget process for next year. Apart from that, I just had a concern, but Councillor Mudge might want to talk about it. On page 165 under communications, I remember the late inclusion was the TDU for $80,000. And Councillor Mudge, I think it was through your initiative that got into the budget. When I voted for that, I supported that. When I did that, I thought that was our contribution, 80,000. That was in my mind. The review now asks for another 30,000, I think it was, from memory. And I'm trying to work out why, so I don't know if someone wants to answer that. It's somewhat similar to the withdrawing of the money for the consultancy, but we are committed to TDU, so I'm not going to include it in my motion to not chip in the extra 30. I'm not going to do that, but someone else might wish to consider it. So I think that's all I need to say.
So a couple of points of clarification. Are you also, in moving the motion, moving what is highlighted in yellow?
Yes.
Yep. And then before we move forward then, can we just reiterate point G that you...
Well, somewhere in there, it will affect some of the figures up the top, I think, like the...
It'll change most of the figures.
Yeah.
But then we can amend the figures afterwards, but they won't be the numbers in the resolution.
Because the operating deficit would drop, say, to 3.11 if you take the 20,000.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's easy. It's editor.
We just put in another resolution that authorises the CEO to make necessary
Consequential.
consequential changes as a result of
Yeah.
amended figures.
Sure. So can we first add in point G? And Councillor Herman, if you can just reiterate the wording that you would like to include.
You got it, Sky? Can you find it? I can read it out again.
need to do is just actually adopt. Can you scroll?
I anticipate Councillor Herman will want the numbers in there though.
They should, not now, but Councillor Osterstock said that the administration should, there may be some consequential changes that occur somewhere else in the document.
Council notes there will be some
consequential amendments to, as a result of G.
Amend the resolution to A to B.
Reflect G.
The change into the G.
Okay, so Dr. Gill, you're happy
Yeah,
with that?
that's what I intended.
Hold on, I'm just from a governance perspective, then you're fine with that. Okay, and you've spoken to the motion as per on the screen. So noting there's the additions highlighted in yellow relative to what was in the original report. So Councillor Mudgee wanting to second the motion.
I'd like to ask a question actually of the administration, and it is in relation to those two items that Councillor Herman brought up. I guess they sort of appeared in the BR1 as line items. Is anyone able to give some sort of a justification for, like, for example, that tour down under, it says going from 76,000 up 34,000 to 110, is that right? And it just says additional budget required for contractor event management of TDU. Is there some justification for why that's greater? And also for the second one, which is operating consultants, while we're adding in $20,000 for early investigative works for new play space within Hamilton Hill, Woodford area. What's the
reason?
business case for these?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the administration,
Thanks,
Mr. Lewis.
Through the chair, I can talk to the Tour Down Under. The budget that we had, the amount, the 76,000 that we'd included. Start again. The actual amount of resources we're putting into the Tour Down Under is unchanged. The budget that we allocated every year was the additional contractors or material costs, which was generally traffic management and some of the catering and facilities that we ran every year. It never included staff time. It never included any overtime. It was always basically additional cost, which is generally spent by the staff who are working on it. This year we've actually moved staff around, and so the resourcing sits separately, is in different locations, but in the actual team running it, they need an additional contractor. But if you look at the whole budget review, there was a large decrease in our salaries budget because we're running fewer headcount in a number of areas. So I'd suggest we're not actually asking for any more budget to run Tour Down Under. What we're doing is we're truing up departmental budgets to try and reflect, so we can budget accurately everywhere, but we're not actually doing anything more on Tour Down Under than we have done previously, and we're not spending any more on it. It's a slight restructure. I can't remember the exact figure, but the salaries are significantly lower, hundreds of thousands lower, and within that, that part of that would offset that 30,000, 34,000. The other one I can't talk to. I'm not so much aware of the.
Ms. Ballantyne.
Through you, Acting Mayor, I can talk to the Hamilton Hill Woodford consultancy fee. It relates to the regional assessment of play spaces after following the removal of a playground on Coach House Drive. The team did the correct thing at that point. Rather than renew, they did a regional assessment of where the need may be for an investment in a play space, and Hamilton Hill and Woodford came out very strongly in that regard, and an additional rationalisation near Coach House Drive was also made with the surfacing of some courts and the addition of an additional play element to that existing space. So we've lost one space, added on to another, and then the end result was being prepared for an investment in Hamilton Hill, Woodford for upcoming budgeting. So that was where that came from.
Questions answered?
Yeah.
Do you wish to second the motion? Yeah, have to.
No. And look, look.
Well,
I
you
guess
can't speak to it then.
If they haven't been seconded, I can't speak.
No, you can second it and speak against it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Grant, would you like to speak to the item?
No, I'll second it and I'll
reserve your
listen.
right.
And I'll listen to the debate. Thank you.
Councillor Mudge, would you like to speak to the item?
Yeah, look, I have difficulty with removing the consultant fee for anticipation of a new play space at Hamilton Hill. As we know, we're in a very lengthy, hopefully soon to be concluded boundary change process, and we've had lots of express commitments. We've given lots of express commitments to the Hamilton Hill Woodford area. And I actually think there is definitely a need for a new play space down there, having spent time down there. And I think it would send the wrong message to that community at this relatively delicate time that we're not willing to put a commitment into that area. So I have an issue with that particular part of the motion. In general, I don't have an issue with it. So
it's not a variation.
It's not. I guess I'd probably need to move an amendment.
Well, you can. Yeah. It is the motion. You've spoken to it, so you can't move an amendment, but you can vote against it.
I guess I'm opposing it at the moment. Yeah.
Sure. Does anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor Osterstock.
Thank you. A difficult one. I agree with Councillor Mudge. The potential of we are in a delicate situation with the boundary change proposal that's currently before the Commission. I do think it would send a wrong message for the sake of $20,000 when potentially this council could stand to lose near on $2 million in rate revenue annually. So I think given that the work has been done by the administration, which has highlighted a need for this asset, I think $20,000 on the consultant to do some work at this point in time is probably money well spent for this council, given the situation it finds itself in at this point.
Councillor Huckster.
Thank you. I have a question. In relation specifically to the 20K consultant line, how would that fit in to the motion we just moved about the asset management review? Would that be something new play spaces would be considered as part of that review?
Yeah, I asked a similar question about that. I guess we have a play space framework, which is getting a bit old now, and something that was sort of talked to at that sport and rec item. Whether it aligns specifically within that or is more of a different decision. Ms. Ballantyne, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yep, through you, Acting Mayor. Good question. So open space is a category that we haven't got a contemporary asset management strategy for. So it does fit into that, and the preliminary work that the team have done in this regional assessment is exactly what the asset management plan for open space will lead. So we've preempted what we would have documented in that strategy, which is when an end-of-life playground's identified and we determine whether we renew it, upgrade it or remove it from our service. This will drive that. So this is a pre-reflection of what we'll have documented in that open space asset management strategy.
Can I ask a follow-up? That might be really silly, but so the motion that we moved earlier had high priority projects that would be highlighted. Would you anticipate that this would be something like this would be one of the high priority projects that would come up for a first look? That was the wrong word, but do you know what I mean?
I would suggest that the nature of the development at Hamilton Hill, the nature of the population, the nature of the catchment area, it would fall into that high priority category.
Councillor Boyd and then
Yes,
Councillor Grant.
Through you, Acting Mayor, just really briefly, I do agree with Councillor Mudge and Councillor Osterstock. I think we'll be sending the wrong message at a crucial time and that we really need to think about this before we vote.
Councillor Parkin.
Could I move a variation or an amendment?
Yes.
So I would like to move the motion removing point G. Thank you.
That would require removing 4 as well.
Yep, and
Yep.
removing 4.
Yeah, I'm happy to accept that as amendment because in the grand scheme of the item itself, it's, yep.
Great, thank you. And in speaking to it briefly, I agree with Councillor Mudge, Councillor Osterstock and Councillor Boyd. I think while this is technically an asset, this is really more a strategic decision we need to make around investing in Hamilton Hill to make sure that we provide enough activity and interest in that particular region of the hills, given the delicate nature of negotiations we're going through, and an investment of 20 grand potentially, talking in monetary terms, so that we minimise our risk of losing 2 million. That's not really about asset management. That's really about strategic retention of part of our council that we really value, and making sure that we invest in that community so that they know that we value them. So I commend this amended motion. Thank you.
Someone like to second the amendment, noting you cannot if you've spoken. Or if you've seconded. Sorry. Councillor Gladigo. So you're happy to second the amendment. Do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, I will briefly. But can I ask a question first?
Yes.
When would that money be spent? When would it be planned?
Ms Ballantyne?
Towards the latter half of this remaining financial year. And the money will be utilised on assessing in this development. There isn't a play space, so it'll be figuring out where it should go, what the existing infrastructure is that would need, and getting those high-level cost estimates of what it might look like.
And when are we expected to hear about the boundary realignment?
Unknown. It is unknown. It could be any time, to be honest.
Yeah. All right.
So you've seconded the amendment.
Yes.
Would you like to speak
So
to
I
it?
will
Noting
speak,
you can only speak to the amendment.
I do see the reason why everybody else has said that it's not a large amount of money given what it could also mean in return. But I am fingers crossed that something will have developed in regards to that boundary realignment, and this might be one of those items that in the end of the day we either may spend the money or we may not spend the money. So it could go either way. So I'm happy to second that amendment.
It's Councillor Herman. You can speak to the amendment, yes. So anyone can speak to the amendment, but you're constrained to the change, which is about that addition, removing of that addition.
I will oppose the amendment. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, asking for $20,000 in a budget review, and you're basing that on a one-line justification. I find that incredible that we would do that. Well, actually, it's one line and one word. Correct myself there. What it will do as well, if it goes through and we commission the consultants, it will build up a huge expectation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director.
What?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Director. An investment of circa 200,000
I'd say that'd be
for a
minimum.
play space.
That'd
That's
be
what they cost at the moment.
minimum for a play space. Yeah.
So it's about what you're doing. If you get consultants, so huge expectations built up, and virtually committing council to a $200,000 asset down there. So just bear that in mind when you consider what you're voting for. I think the procedure was incorrect in this case. This has probably been known about for some time. I think a better procedure would have been to have a report to the council a month or so ago outlining the project in full, what it's about, the outcomes expected, and then the council could have made a decision to proceed to do it in the budget review or not do it. So I am opposing the motion.
Would anyone else like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Grant?
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. I thank everyone for their contribution. In short, I'm satisfied with Ms Ballantyne's explanation. If the need exists, so be it, and we'll have to spend the money. But this will give us enough information to make a decision when we come to considering the budget. So yeah, I do support the amendment.
Councillor Boyd, then Councillor Mudge.
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor. We've actually got it wrong there once before. We put in outdoor gym equipment. There wasn't.
We didn't put in the outdoor gym
Okay.
equipment. The developers did, and it wasn't
Okay,
to
so
spec, so we had to remove it.
It has been done wrong in the past. The community members did not get what they wanted or asked for or expressed any desire for. So there was wasted thousands. I think that we need to do this and we need to get it right. And for me, I think that we can afford the professional expertise that we need to make sure that we do get it right this time.
Councillor Mudge.
Thank you. Needless to say, I support the amendment. I do, however, agree with Councillor Herman that this could have been done in a better way. One single line is probably not the appropriate way to do it. A separate council resolution on this would be good, and it also help to actually highlight that we're actually doing something in this particular area as well. So I support the amendment.
The only point I'll make in relation to that, though, is like if you think about the budget review, there's lots of different items that are shifting, and if there's the expectation that there's a report for every single one of those, you'd have a lot of reports. I think what we can do, and I did, is actually ask questions about the particular items that you have concerns or queries about in advance of the meeting. Would anyone else like to speak to the amendment? Okay, so there's no right of reply for an amendment, so I'll put that. All those in favour to please indicate. Those against? The amendment is carried. So we now have the motion as amended. Would anyone who has not spoken to the motion itself like to speak to it, noting not to repeat what's already been debated? No. It's a funny situation, Councillor Herman. It's your motion that's now amended. Would you like a right of reply?
Procedural. Can I withdraw it?
No. You can vote against it, but that's up to you. Do you wish to speak in closing?
No, I think I've made my point very clear in the amendment that I think that it's the wrong process. It built up to expectation. We're adding 200,000 to our assets before we do any review. So the chamber obviously doesn't accept that argument. Thank you.
Okay, with the debate closed, all those in favour to please indicate. Those against? The motion is carried. Okay, we'll move on to item 12.4, Annual Report 24-25. Mr. Lewis, any new information you'd like to provide the chamber? Someone like to move something in relation to this? Councillor Osterstock, what would you like to move? Do you wish to speak to the item?
No, only to thank the staff for their work in relation to this report.
Thanks. Councillor Mudge, you'd like to second?
I'd like to second. I'll briefly speak to it. I did have a good read through the report. I did note a number of small errors that I think need to be fixed, which I will send through to the administration in a marked up copy of it. There was one which I thought was a little bit more significant, and that so it's probably worth mentioning here is the gifts register. There are some problems with that. Basically, some of the columns don't match with the reality.
Yeah.
So that needs to be definitely fixed, both on our website and also in the annual report as well. So it might be worth going back to the original information and making sure that the things are in the right columns. But yeah, I think it's a really good annual report, and it is a good summary of how we performed last year. I was particularly pleased by the fact that we had our operating surplus. So, yeah, it's a short-lived surplus, but it is a surplus, and we've got to claim the wins when we get them, basically. So that's a good thing. So thanks to all those who contributed to this report, and I recommend the motion.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor Herman, you turn your mic off and sit on.
I'll get it right one day. It must be nearly 8 o'clock. Yeah, I know there's some editorial corrections which the administration will take on board. Thank you for that. I did have a question on page 271. If you'd like to look that up, the last sentence on page 271, related party transactions. At the time of reporting, related party disclosure information was not received from 2 elected members. Can I ask who they are?
You can ask, but I'm not sure if the administration need to respond to that question. No.
I'll ask a supplementary question. Are they current serving members?
I don't think we need to answer that one either.
That's the answer. What else is over there? No.
If we could just...
Yeah, that's all.
Chit chat, thanks.
So there you go, nothing further. Apart from the report, I did have another general question about the accountability of the CAP or the planning department. And the question there is, we have a very comprehensive report on all aspects of the operations of council. However, if I ask Councillor Osterstock how many Freedom of Information applications we received, he would say, go and look at report page 205. That's good. If I asked someone else, how many development applications did we receive? I think I'd get what the umpires do. I don't know. Because it seems to me that that's an aspect of our reporting and openness that there's no mention of the CAP panel or CAP and development, not only CAP, about what they have done for the year, how many applications they received. I did make a note to the CEO about that. I'm not going to ask for that to be amended, but I will write to the CEO more formally. What I thought is, as we do with the FII, a number of applications outstanding on the 1st of July, new applications received, applications approved or not approved with a resulting number at the bottom. And if we have that information each year, the council is able to make an assessment of how that particular department is going with their processing and development applications. In qualifying that, we do receive a quarterly report which says how many applications were received and whether they were processed in time. But there's no summary report of the activities of that area for 12 months. But I'll take that up independently.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Herman. Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor Osterstock, do you need a right of reply? I'll put the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. That is carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 12.5, bylaw adoption. So that's in relation to bylaw 4 and 7. Ms Charlton, do you have any new information you'd like to provide the chamber? Does someone like to move something in relation to this? Councillor Mudge, what would you like to move?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to move this as printed and briefly speak to it if I could.
Yep.
Yeah, look, I guess I wanted to speak to this because I guess I was the person who originally pushed for the modifications to include, to keep the regulate roosters and pigeons in townships in as a bylaw. I have had a good read through the community feedback report, and I'm satisfied by the response from the administration that we do have mechanisms, alternative mechanisms, other than through a bylaw like this one, of actually dealing with both roosters and pigeons through the the Local Nuisance and Litter Control Act. It's slightly more involved, but it is fairly similar to what we do with other things such as barking dogs and things like that. I think given the overwhelming community opposition to that particular bylaw, I think it's reasonable for us to withdraw it at this point in time. And I'm happy that the community appeared to support bylaw number 4, roads, with the changes that were suggested. I think it's a reasonable sort of compromise between having bins out and not sort of clogging up our streets continuously forever, and allowing members of our community to have a reasonable amount of time to get their bins back, put their bins out and get them back in. So I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mudge. Would someone like to second the item? Councillor Huxter, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, but I think just a question, and it's only just popped into my mind, so apologies if it is in here. Is the process to write to those who have participated in the engagement and let them know what the outcomes are?
Good question.
Through you, Acting Mayor, yes, the general process following any engagement is to circulate the report. So we'll talk to the staff following the council meeting, because we can then include any outcomes of the meeting tonight.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item? No need for a right of reply then. Councillor Mudge. All those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously. So move on to item 12.6. Earlier at the beginning of the meeting, I did declare a general conflict of interest because I work at Heathfield High School. Been contemplating that a little bit more in relation to, I guess, anyone within the department being an employee of the Instrument of the Crown, and then that automatically means you have an interest in the matter just by virtue of being an employee. Now, that interest only exists when there's a direct connection, and whilst there may be a degree of separation and abundance of caution, I'm going to leave the room for this item.
Thank you. Was there anything that the administration would like to add to the report? No? Would someone like to move something? Councillor Herman? Oh, do you? Yes, you do.
For item 12.6 and 12.7, that's community development grants and recreation facilities grants. Conflict. It's a general conflict. It's a general conflict. I know some of the board members on both of those management committees of the Kersbrook Football Club and the Cuddly Creek and Tennis and Netball Club. My association with the clubs will not affect my ability to make an impartial decision, and I will stay in the room and vote on the matter.
Okay, thank you. No one else had a conflict of interest, did they? You do, Councillor Gladigo?
I do, sort of, as a former player for the Torrens Valley Football Club, but I'll declare it as a partial conflict, and I don't intend leaving the room because I'm not actually involved in the football club anymore at this stage. I'm too old for that. So.
Just to clarify, Councillor Gladigo, that's a general conflict of interest. Yeah. Yes. Councillor Parkin.
I'm realising I also have a general conflict of interest. Bundabyne Incorporated, Reinhardt is a personal friend of mine. They're friends of our family. So that is a general conflict of interest. I don't think that will affect my decision making. So I'd like to note that and stay in the chamber and vote. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Anyone else? Would anyone like to move something? Councillor Osterstock?
Thank you. I'll move the recommendation as printed. Thank you.
Someone like to second it? Councillor Trescothick, would you like to speak? Any debate? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. If we could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, moving on to item 12.7, we have the Community and Rec Facility Grant recommendations. Ms Ballantyne, do you have any new information you'd like to provide the chamber for that one? Someone like Chris Grant, straight up. What would you like to move?
I'll move the recommendation.
Do you wish to speak to the item?
No, I don't need to speak, thank you.
Councillor Herman, you'd like to
Yeah, I'll
second?
second it, but just record my general conflict of interest, which I read out.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you. And I'll second.
And would anyone else like to speak to this item? Yeah, Councillor Gladego.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I will say I struggled with some of these applications, given the amount of them, and for their actual purpose. But I will apologise because I should have delved this a bit earlier with Ms Ballantyne, as it does mention in this report about council-owned land or property and non-property, but none of these actually describe whether any of these projects are on council-owned buildings, etc., or whether they are community-owned facilities. So, I apologise that I haven't sought that response earlier. I did have issues over, putting solar batteries on someone's pistol club, etc. But given the amount that some of these, but I would like to see that in future we can tidy this up a lot more than what it currently is, and that our grants program becomes a lot more strategic than what it currently is. So it creates a lot more detail as to what these projects are, what they're actually, is it a council-owned asset or etc., to make it a lot clearer of what we're actually agreeing to give money out to, because it's a good amount of money.
Thanks. Just a couple of points in relation to that. I don't think it's in this actual report, but sometimes in previous reports they do provide the criteria on how each of these are assessed, and I note it does refer to the grant giving policy and guidelines. So there are quite rigid criteria around, I guess, what can be included and why, but there's no reason we can't look to review those in due course. The other point, I think it's my understanding that we wouldn't differentiate between council or community owned based on that equity approach of, if it's providing benefit to the community, we should see that equally. Is that correct? Is that?
That's correct. So the ownership is irrelevant in this guideline and framework. In future, though, we can review the framework and guidelines to incentivise the kind of strategic direction we're trying to achieve following that asset management review.
All right, would anyone else like to speak to the item? No? Councillor Grant, do you need a right of reply? Okay, with the debate closed, all those in favour please indicate. That is carried unanimously. We'll move on to item 12.8, Balhana Uniting Church Youth Group lease proposal. Ms Ballantyne, do you have any new information you'd like to provide the chamber for that one?
Nothing further.
So I'd like to move something in relation to that. Councillor Herman.
I'll move the recommendation, but I did have a question about part of the proposed lease. If I can turn it up. Page 410 of the document. Let me just get that up while you get it up.
Number around maintenance repairs.
Yeah, 410. Yeah. So I know what I'm talking about. Right. There is an exclusion of the council will look after the roof, but will not replace the gutters. Now they sort of go, in my view, go hand in hand. But the explanation that came back from the staff that if we include the gutters as replacement, the lessee may not clean the gutters, and therefore they won't last as long. If I've read that correct? Yeah. So yes. So what we've got here, we'll replace the roof, which we should. It's a structural matter. My view is that the gutters are the same.
So are you moving the recommendation and speaking
I'll
to it? Well, it sounds like you are, so let's go with that.
Well, could I ask the administration to provide a comment on the possibility of including the gutters?
Well, I guess that's up to this elected body if they want to
but I'd
move.
like a comment from you.
Sure. Okay, Ms Ballantyne.
Thank you. Through you, Acting Mayor, I think we will improve the lease conditions to refer to the structural nature of the gutter and it needing to be cleaned. It's easy to spell the two.
You can separate.
I'll look into that.
So
you happy to move it
on
now?
that undertaking, how do we fix the lease up? Oh, the recommendation. Oh, I've moved that motion.
So you're wanting to move a motion which has the lease where council is responsible for the gutters and downpipes?
Well, what words that the director said?
I think if there's you could have a generic responsibility assigned to administration to review the nature of the maintenance
the gutters
of the lessee. I think the maintenance tasks of the lessee. Or trust me that I'll achieve this without that amendment.
So,
are you saying that in relation to this one individual lease or in future moving forward?
In future moving forward with all leasing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
How do I incorporate that? I'd like those words in there. Or do I trust you?
Have some trust, Councillor Herman.
Trust and obey. I'll leave it as it is, and I'll just switch off my phone because I've just recorded that undertaking. Yeah, I'll move the...
It's all being recorded, Councillor Herman. You don't need to. All right, thank you. Your microphone's off again.
Councillor Gladdick and I called in to see the Ballahana Hall Committee tonight. They wanted to explain what they do. And I asked them about how they felt about the Anglican Church, Uniting Church, having the room at the back on their premises. They're extremely glad to have them there. So that's one of the reasons I'm supporting that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Herman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boyd, do you wish to speak to the item? Anyone else like to contribute to the debate? Councillor Gladdigo?
Can I ask a question? Thank you, Acting Mayor. I probably read this wrong when I originally looked at it because I thought it was only really for consultation, but now when I look at it a bit harder, it says if there's no real community objections that will agree to signing a 21-year lease. Is a 21-year lease a standard thing that the council does?
Not necessarily. I would prefer that we look at 5-year renewals until we embed our asset management, community land management framework and policy framework. So I'm happy for an amendment to the from 21 to 5 years, and that'll give us time to do that strategic body of work. if that's what you'd like to achieve tonight, I'm happy to support that.
Hang on, before.
Hold on. No,
Can I ask a question?
No. Let's just hold on. Councillor Glasgow, are you doing anything about that?
Oh,
Or you just
that does give me exactly the segue I was looking for, to say that I would like to move an amendment that it is a 5-year lease instead of a 21-year lease.
Sure, I'm happy to accept that amendment. Now, before you speak to it, Councillor Herman, you suggested you have a question.
What has been the consultation with the Uniting Church? Are they expecting a 21-year lease? I mean, the report came out with that recommendation on it.
Yep. So is that their expectation?
And it's the director's report. So what's been the change of heart between the writing of the report and changing it to 5? I mean, and what consultation has happened with the United Church? I mean, they're obviously, I would imagine they're expecting 21.
Look, I'm happy to take that on notice. I believe it's a previous lease of that length of time. Yeah, I'll just take it on notice. I'm happy to return this item if you like.
Question to the acting mayor. I presume I can't ask for a deferral. So I've spoken and moved.
Yeah, you have. Yep.
Yeah, so it may be up to another member to defer it for a meeting to allow that discussion to take place.
Yeah, that would be a formal motion. Councillor Mudge.
I'm happy to move a deferral or whatever.
So a formal motion to have the item adjourned until 9th of December?
Yes, please, yeah.
Yeah, so we can't debate this. It's just, it occurs or it doesn't. Councillor Parkin, you're happy to second? Okay, so this is a vote on whether we adjourn the item until the 9th of December. And is that, so the reason being to allow
To
the
allow
administration to discuss
to consult
with the Uniting Church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Question?
Yes. So, yeah, I'll allow a question.
Question. That's 5 and if it's coming back about 6 or 7 days for consultation, just wonder whether the 9th of December's too early. Just wondering that.
Well,
I
it's our
think
last meeting.
this is just to have. Ms. Ballantyne?
Sure. This speaks to our lack of resources, and I'd prefer to
27th?
Yep.
Yep. So just going back to
January.
Councillor
sorry,
Mudge.
the
So
next-
the suggestion is that instead of the 9th of December, the next meeting is January the 27th of January. Are you happy to move the formal motion for that instead? And I'll just clarify with Councillor Park, and you're also happy with that alternate date. Okay, so again, just mindful there's no debate. Councillor Triscoll, I think you've got a question. Yeah,
Just be mindful, the lease isn't going to expire before then.
the lease has already expired.
So we need to
When a lease expires, my understanding is it's just rolls over until we put in place a new lease. So
We're in multiple rollover circumstances
it's
with
not
multiple
uncommon.
lessees.
Can I just clarify on the screen? It's 2026 rather than 24.
Yes, thank you. Okay, no more questions? All right, so I'll put this motion to adjourn it. All those in favour, please indicate. That is carried unanimously. So we'll move on to item 13. So we're up to information items. 13.1, the Innovate Reconciliation Action Plan. It's a progress report. So just to receive and note it, and also the report from the working group. Ms Charlton, any new information you'd like to provide? Someone like to move something? Councillor Mudge, would you like to move?
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I won't go into detail on this one. earlier this year we improved our Innovation Reconciliation Action Plan. And the thing that I really like about this report is it's actually got some concrete actions, and we're actually reporting our progress against those actions. And there are a number of achievements in the report, which I hope members will have noted.
Thank you, Councillor Mudge. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Grant, would you like to speak to the item?
Only to say that we have an anomaly on the screen. It says item 15.1. But other than that, I support the item.
Okay. We'll worry about that later. Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Okay, no need for a right of reply then. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? Carried. Move on to item 13.2, which is Annual Investment Performance Report 24-25. Mr. Lewis, any new information you'd like to provide? Okay, would someone like to move something in relation to that? Councillor Herman?
Yeah. And I just, this went through the Audit and Risk Committee the Monday week ago. In general terms, the investment that the council has received, the overall weighted average return is better than the RB Reserve Bank rate for their returns. And it's the interest, investment returns are in line with what we've budgeted for.
Someone like to second the item? Councillor Parkin? I need to speak to it. Anyone else like to speak to the item? Okay, just turn your mic off. Thanks, Councillor Herman. All those in favour, please indicate. That is carried unanimously. So we do have one correspondence for noting. That's from GRFMA regarding some funding success. Would someone like to move to receive and note that? Councillor Grant, do you wish to speak to it? I'll have a seconder. Councillor Mudge, do you wish to speak to the item?
I've got a question on this, and then I'm happy to second it. I guess my question to the administration is, what are the consequences for us from this particular success of a grant? Does it mean we have to put more money in?
Hopefully not. Can someone from the administration answer that? Take it.
Through you, Acting Mayor, we don't really know the implications yet. I do note that the comment at the end of the letter about you advocating for seeking funding from other organisations, particularly state and federal. So I think that's and the private sector. So I think that's positive.
Would anyone else, or would anyone like to speak to the item? No? Okay, then I'll just put it to the vote. All those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously. Does anyone have a question without notice?
Yes, I do.
Councillor Herman.
Any progress on the OTR appeal?
Ms. Chapman?
Through you, Acting Mayor, no.
Very brief and concise answer, thank you. And perhaps one to the CEO. Probably 6 or 9 months ago, the Chamber passed a resolution about the safety of Kenton Valley Road between Gummaraka and Loberthal. Residents concerned about the condition of the road and other issues that made it unsafe in their view. The council authorised the CEO to take the matter up with DIT. The natives are getting restless, so I just wonder if you had a progress report on what actions being taken by DIT to improve the safety.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Acting Mayor, it has been raised with the department several times, and we'll raise it again, but we will follow it up, and see if they can support our initiative.
I'll ask again in a couple of months. Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question without notice? Any motions without notice? No. Councillor Boyd?
Yes, through you, Acting Mayor. It has come about that there is a clash of events on the 9th of December. So that is our final council meeting and celebratory Christmas.
Just before you speak to the item, you
Yeah.
need to provide the wording of what motion without
Okay.
notice you're wanting to move.
Yeah, absolutely. So just that on the 9th of December, our council meeting begins 1 hour later than usual, which
So
will be
just
7:30
7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. There's. Can I speak to it now?
Hold on. Okay, so I was just checking the ability to accept that motion without notice, and I'm after taking into account the guiding principles, I'm happy to accept that as a motion without notice. So you can now speak to it.
Okay, just very briefly. I believe at 4:30 there's refreshments and 5:30 the community cabinet begins. I am suggesting that we start our council meeting at 7:30 p.m. I am, however, very aware that we will be celebrating Christmas together that evening after the meeting. So I believe it will mean changing the agenda to make it lighter than expected. So that I think really that this whole thing working would pin on that. That's all I need to say.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion without notice? Councillor Mudge, would you like to speak to the item?
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised when this sort of slipped into my my inbox and alerted the CEO yesterday when I found out about this community cabinet meeting. The only thing I can think of is that there's a state election coming up and they wanted to compress as much in engagement as they can as possible. So I think it's really important that as many of us can get along to that community cabinet as possible, and I hope that our administration will prepare some sort of advocacy for our council district and make sure that our thoughts and our priorities are expressed to the cabinet in a fulsome way.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item?
Just
Councillor Herman?
Question, where's it being held?
Heathfield High School, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just speaking to it, at the last one, I think at Ballahana.
Yes.
We had a very comprehensive agenda that we put to them, and congratulate the CEO and the staff for putting that together. There were some runs on the board from that. I think Amy Gillett was raised, and well, it's there now. So it's not just a futile effort raising stuff with government. So it's I have no hesitation in supporting it.
I'll just clarify though that was country cabinet, us as a council presenting to the cabinet. This is about them coming to talk with the community. So I'm not sure that council have a formal role at all at this event. It's them coming to speak to the community, not them coming to speak to us.
Last
Sure.
time our CEO was up the front.
Yes, I was with him, and that was called the Country Cabinet, where we were invited to speak to the cabinet. This is the probably not the full cabinet. This is the Premier and some ministers coming to speak to the community. It's not. We have not been requested to present. We don't know what the format is. It's a different sort of event. So I would assume that if we actually had a role to play in it, that we would be aware of it already. Yes, Councillor Huxter.
So what I picture is that we would be there as residents.
Observers.
Yeah.
Yes, unless requested otherwise, but at this point I've not heard anything.
And we weren't invited before.
No.
Yeah.
Councillor Grant?
Yeah, look, I don't see we have a role in this. It's specifically a community cabinet. We weren't invited or informed in advance, and I don't think we should change our business to be observers at this particular event, and we've got other matters to attend to, so I won't support the motion with all the best intent.
Would anyone else like to speak to the item? Councillor Parkin?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'm really glad for that clarification and explanation because I too thought it was the same as.
Sounds the same.
Yeah, which really was very effective for us. I disagree with Councillor Grant, which is unusual, actually, because we are members of the community, and I think it's actually going to be very important for us to attend to hear what members of our community raise and to hear how the Premier and the government respond, because that could and should inform our own decision making and our own knowledge of the community. So I think it's important that as many of us as possible attend, and as a result, I support this motion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parker. And anyone else? Councillor Trescothick?
Yeah, look, obviously disappointing that government's kind of gone ahead without taking into consideration other people's agendas, but as in support of some of the other councillors, I think it is important for us to show our face because it shows that we mean business and we're interested in what's going on in the community. So I don't know whether we have the ability to reach out to the Premier and see if it could be, started a bit earlier. I think we are council. It's a worthwhile request.
No, they have registrations open and the flyers landed all through this area today. So I doubt they changed the time, but I think it's worthy of asking them what the format is and how we might be able to input into that. Yeah. Councillor Osterstock.
Is it possible for us to move our council meeting from the 9th to the 10th of December? Because my understanding was, given it's the last council meeting before we break for Christmas, we were going to start the council meeting at 6, like we have done in previous years, so as we can adjourn to a relaxed atmosphere and wish each other Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So if there is a appetite for the council to attend this community forum, for which we don't have any formal role, perhaps a cleaner option would be to move the council meeting to the 10th.
So I guess my first question to the administration would be, is that possible? Is there something else on that day already? Cap
Through
or
you,
something
Acting Mayor,
like
there's
that?
a council assessment panel meeting.
Yeah, council assessment panel meeting.
Scheduled at this stage.
Scheduled, okay.
Yeah, and I have.
Hold on, let's not just, I'll go to questions. Yes, councillor.
Yeah, my question is to the administration: would it be possible to have a much lighter agenda to allow us to start at 7:30 p.m. and finish in time for dinner?
Yeah, there are certain items that will have to come to council. It could be that some can be considered in the new year, but I would not bank on a meeting starting at 7:30, finishing in time for a meal. Councillor Herman, did you have a?
Yeah, I have a comment.
So you were debating?
Yes, I'm debating.
Just sorry, before you do, no, I don't think so. No. You haven't spoken, have you?
No.
No.
No, well, I'm speaking. I've already made arrangements avoiding the Tuesday the 9th for a private function at home. And I'd be a bit disappointed if the council shifted it over to the 10th, and Councillor Mudge, it might preclude him from a CAP meeting. I don't know just what the arrangements, how long that would go. So I would, Mark, I understand what you're doing, trying to achieve, but
Just trying to please everyone.
yeah.
It's not possible
in
politics.
And I'll be supporting the 9th at this stage.
Yeah, or he's talking about why he wouldn't choose a different date. Okay, so would anyone else like to speak to this motion without notice, which is currently suggesting a 9th of December meeting starts at 7:30 p.m. Okay, Councillor Boyd, you're right of reply.
Yes, I'd just like to agree with numerous voices around the chamber tonight. This is a great opportunity for us to listen to our community, and I can't think of anything more important to do. So I strongly put forward that we start the meeting at 7:30, which will make the evening at council even lighter than initially thought. So it's going to be a nice entrance into Christmas. We'll all feel quite jovial having had an hour less council meeting, and I support the motion.
Just to clarify, there's not necessarily an hour less of council meeting. We'll still have the same
I'm
items.
hoping that that's how it's
Well,
going to play out. I'm
right,
hoping
well,
that's how it will
we'll see. All right, with the debate closed, all those in favour, please indicate. Those are, hold on, let's just be clear with our hands. All those in so this is voting to have the meeting start on the 9th, so stay on the Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. All those in favour, please indicate. Those against? The motion is carried. Okay, so any other motions without notice? No, we'll move on to reports. Did anyone like to speak to anything that they have been to? Yes.
Yeah, just this morning I had a GFR Audit and Risk Committee.
Yep.
The committee's recommended to council to approach the Local Government Association Asset Management Scheme to investigate the cover for the Bruce Eastick Dam. It's quite a complex situation, that one, because we have to put together. This dam was built in about 2006, and in informal discussions, the mutual liability, want to know what it was made out of and all the specifications for it before they'll consider it. But the board has to take the decision to approach them to do it. It is the only dam, if the LG, the mutual liability scheme, take it on, it is the only dam that they would insure. They don't know what the risk is because they haven't had any experience in it, so it'll be a little bit complex. So it may take a little time to work through. In the meantime, if you pray we don't get a cloudburst in the Upper Barossa Valley.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Huxter.
I went to the LGA AGM last Friday, which was very interesting. But I just wanted to share with you all that I got to wear a name badge that said Mayor Lucy Huxter, and you can imagine the faces that were made at me because everyone knew I wasn't the mayor. But it was a good event to go to, so I'm glad I got the experience and I've kept that as a memento.
Very good. Okay, so maybe if we can just shift Councillor Herman's GRFMA down into the 18.2, and then I'll pass over to the CEO for your report.
Thank you. I'll get the...
Yeah, sorry, I'll just ask them to do something. So.
Thank you. And through you, Acting Mayor, just once again, I'd like to put forward some of the CEO's highlights. Fabric, we've got a new program that's rolling out on the 30th of November. Hopefully, councillors can attend. It's the Nan D program. It's an exhibition. Basically, it's been a partnership with Country Arts and the Art Gallery and ourselves. So it's quite a primary event or a premier event. So I'd encourage all elected members, those that can attend, to attend. Of course, just to recap on the Amy Gillett, that was a triumph, as Councillor Mudge has put it. That I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all the staff. I think a lot of people probably haven't appreciated just the effort that our own staff have put into it. And it just proves that some of these capital projects or significant projects can be delivered by our operational staff. And Amy Gillett is proof in that. And it's not just our white collar staff that undertook some of the engineering, some of the pricing of the build, but also our outside workforce that were fundamental in delivering that asset to the standard that you all experienced there last week. One of the other key highlights is that our enterprise bargaining agreement for the outside workforce went to the vote. It got passed by 93.5%, in favour, which is a fantastic result. I think it's unprecedented that we've had such a buy-in from our outside workforce. So I'd like to also commend and questions.
Councillor Herman, you
Yeah,
have a
just
question?
one question with the field staff EBA. The increase that was granted, isn't that in line with the amount of funds we put into the budget for this year? Thank
Any other questions for the CEO?
Just quickly.
Councillor Sussop?
Thank you. Do we receive hard copy annual reports anymore, or is it all electronic?
We do.
Any other questions? Yeah, Councillor Gallagher.
Yeah, thank you. Just one on the Amy Gillett. There's been a few reports back about some issues with along the track. One around Hammer Road intersection hit the Facebook fairly hard the other day.
Okay.
And another one, and I know Councillor Herman has seen it as well, but again with the storm on Saturday, is on Posden Road, there's only a gutter there, not an actual stormwater pipe. And so it's actually everything washes across the track and then it's actually eroding at the end of that gutter. So there could be a few things be worth council chasing up on that. And the giveaway signs are very small that they've put in instead of larger ones. And I don't know if there's actually one on Oval Road. I know the other ones went in that day because when I went for a ride that opening day, but Oval Road didn't have one. So, but maybe if they were made bigger or something, just to try and cut down any possible incident.
So can that be looked into? Good question. No, it's good points raised. Any other questions? No, we'll move on. We have one report of committees, that is audit and risk. Some like to receive and note those. Councillor Herman.
I'll move that. And anything I think contained in that minutes have come forward, mainly the budget review has come forward to council. Nothing.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Grant. All those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously. We have no others, so one confidential item. The first thing we'll need to do is to move into confidence. I've got Councillor Grant who is looking to move us into confidence. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Boyd. All those in favour to please indicate. That is carried unanimously, so we are